evening to you all, and hope you've had a good day. You're listening to the webinar for the National Schools Training, and today we'll be going through important points to consider regarding Unit 2 for the Level 5 ILM Diploma in School Business Management. As with Unit 1, my role is to act as a coach and advisor to you to help you to reflect on the work you are doing and challenge yourself. So Unit 1 carries on from obviously Unit 2 carries on from Unit 1 in that we're going to be looking at team effectiveness instead of personal effectiveness. So again, we look at particular concepts and techniques and tools from the modules, and if you're struggling with any ideas, I and the other learners are here to support you with suggestions and help you to access unit resources. We'll start this session, as we do, with a quick test of connections to make sure that you can hear me. Followed by my introduction and a brief overview of Unit 2 at Level 5. During the session, please feel free to ask any questions or raise any matters by using the raise hand control on the panel. Alternatively, you may want to write down any questions and ask them at the end. Questions can be on Unit 2 or any other course matter during the webinar. So I'm just going to quickly unmute people, say hello to them individually while I go through everyone's connections. If you can just have a quick read of the notes on the screen for technical arrangements and note on questions. As I said previously, I will be asking some questions to the group during this webinar. At this point, I intend to unmute everyone so that you can all join in the discussion, and hopefully this will not create an issue with feedback. If it does, then we'll just have to unmute one learner at a time when the questions come up by raise your hand. So if I can first of all go to Elizabeth. Hello Elizabeth, can you hear me tonight?
Yes, I can hear you. Hello.
Hello, good evening. Julie, can you hear me? Hello, Julie? Julie, it says that you're self-muted. If you can have a look on the little control panel where there's a green background with a white microphone, possibly. I can't unmute you as you've actually muted yourself. We'll come back to Julie then. Kirsty, hello Kirsty.
Hello, yeah, I can hear you.
Hi, evening. Lorraine, hello Lorraine. Again, it's saying, oh, that you've got to enter a PIN number, Lorraine. So I'm not too sure if Lorraine's with us. I'll come back to Nicola. Hello, Nicola.
Hi guys, everybody
Hi.
all right?
Yeah, fine, thanks. Paula, can you hear us, Paula?
Oh, hiya, yes, thank you. Hello, everybody.
Hi, good evening. Right, I'll just go back to Julie. Julie, could you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you, thanks.
Brilliant.
Now.
Thank you. Right, I'll just mute you for the start. And Lorraine, it's saying that an audio pin has been sent. Have you managed to connect in, Lorraine? Right, well, we'll come back to Lorraine. Hopefully she's actually connected via telephone, and a pin has to go to her telephone so that she can enter. So hopefully she will be connecting with us very soon. So moving on to the next slide. I thought it'd be worthwhile just going over the small changes that have been made with regard to the way Unit 2 will be run. firstly, I'd just like to ask you all how you found Unit 1. Was it useful to you as a learner, and any areas that possibly need improvement with the delivery, any suggestions that you can make? If you don't want to bring them up tonight, that's fine. You can always email me. You know, National Schools Training are always looking for areas to improve, so we do value the feedback from the learners. You can also give any feedback on the actual topic of personal effectiveness or even the general approach of the course. So I'm going to unmute all learners at this point, and if there's anybody who would like to unfortunately it looks like I have to go through everyone and unmute them individually. So you should all be able to raise any questions at this point. How did you generally find Unit 1? Was it valuable? Anybody like to share? Anything that actually stands out to them that they learned from Unit 1?
The only thing I can say, Fiona, sorry, it's Nikki, is that whilst I looked at my assertiveness as I worked through the modules and on talking to particularly people that I currently work with, I found that it wasn't necessarily my assertiveness that was the problem. It was, well, not so much problem, but it was other areas of myself that I didn't, you know, bring out. I didn't show to other people. Therefore, they perceived me in a very different light to what I did.
Yeah, and I do think this whole area of personal effectiveness, it's quite inward reflecting, isn't it? And self-analysing, in that it sort of gives you a little bit of a wake-up call of how other staff perceive you and how you put yourself across.
And it's not so much an realisation that I was not assertive enough. Other people thought that I was, but I just presented myself differently to them than the way I saw myself.
So how you felt inwardly wasn't necessarily how they perceived you coming across. So to them,
it was more me reflecting rather than, you know, the way they thought of me.
Yeah. So I suppose really it was coming round to maybe a bit of self-confidence in yourself and a self-awareness of your own abilities and your value to the school.
Yes, that's right.
Well, that's good. So I'm going to, is anybody having experiences with feedback with everyone unmuted at this point?
No.
Right, okay then. Well, we'll try and continue the webinar with everyone unmuted, and then if you want to raise any points as we're going through, or, you know, just ask any questions, then you can come on board and I don't have to stop and unmute you, and you don't have to wait for me to unmute you. If it does become that someone is suffering from a lot of feedback down their mics, then put your hand up or let us know, and we'll go back to the mute all option. So yeah, I mean, what Nikki raised there is really interesting with regards to the value of the personal effectiveness. It's very much an inward looking and how we perceive ourselves as well as how others perceive us. So moving on, there's been some minor changes to administration and tutorials. As notified, the group tutorials are to replace the one-to-one tutorials. There's a change to the cohort name in that there was a bit of confusion as to whether you were cohort 1 or 2. So we've actually decided on that you'll be cohort level 5 January 2016, and Sabrina sent out an email with that effect. And obviously, as you've done for Unit 1, submission is via the VLE for the assignments. And I know the majority have managed to do this via the VLE, and there doesn't seem to have been any major problems with that. It's just getting used to that new system. So the group tutorials are actually operated via GoToMeeting, and Sabrina sent out the dates for the set meetings. Do, as with tonight, do try to attend these meetings and use them as an open discussion forum, similar to the online discussion forum. But I think the value of actually coming online and chatting is that as you gain confidence as the course progresses, there's that verbal interaction with your cohort. So you'll have experience now of the studying online with this course. As with Unit 1, Unit 2 consists of modules of subject learning areas which underpin the learning outcomes within your assignments. The modules are compulsory learning. Unit 2 follows on nicely from personal effectiveness to the leading and managing of teams. Again, you are provided with a resource folder by National Schools Training. Have you all managed to download Access Unit 2 on the VLE on the 1st of May?
Yep, no
Brilliant.
problems.
That's great. Course delivery, including resources, is via the National School Training VLE website online learning area. And again, with obviously tutor support. This gives you the opportunity to work at your preferred times while still having access to other learners undertaking the course. And again, you'll make application of your learning to your workplace or school setting and share your practices with other learners. So with the start of Unit 2, it's important to read through the unit handbook before commencing on the modules. The unit handbook is invaluable as an important point of reference for you and contains a lot of information to provide you with guidance and support. Most importantly, it contains your assessment details and learning outcomes that you will need to demonstrate within your assessment. It is very important to check what the assessment is asking you for. For example, Unit 1 requested a reflective commentary, which was a reflective summary on your professional learning achieved through undertaking the unit. That is your level of knowledge and understanding. But some of the units will ask you for a professional commentary. That is more your analysis of processes and scenarios in the context of management and not so much on your development and reflection. And then you might get asked throughout the unit for a written report. That is one to be delivered in a professional scenario, such as one that you might raise for governors. Excuse me. Do remember that you can submit an assignment if needed up to 3 weeks prior to the assignment deadline. Obviously, if there is anything that should go drastically wrong towards the end of your assessment write-up and you don't feel you'll meet that deadline, then just get in contact with myself and we can discuss it at that point. Also, I would just remind you about referencing. National Schools Training adopt the Harvard system of referencing, and there is a quick guide to referencing for your assessment write-ups. So again, going into Unit 2, do prioritise and set aside time for your course, time for reflection and also a break now and again. To do this, you're going to have to use some of your personal effectiveness skills from Unit 1 and learn to say no and delegate tasks. So for those who did delegation in Unit 1, you can put those skills actually to work during Unit 2. Both personally and professionally, people in your life will want you to succeed and will want to support you, so do ask them for that support. So once again, does anyone have anything to share with the other learners on strategies they found has helped them to schedule in or prioritise their coursework. And has time been challenging for you? Have you had to make any changes? Have you approached your head teachers about possibly having a set time each week? How has that worked out? Has it worked out? Does anybody have anything to offer? I know when I did my certificate in school business management, when it was something that that was something that the school actually wanted me to complete, I negotiated going in a bit later on a Wednesday morning just so that I could have those couple of hours first thing where I could sit down and just concentrate fresh on my assignments and such like. Has anyone managed to negotiate time set aside?
Yeah, I've managed to persuade my head to let me have an afternoon off.
That's
maybe once a week or the other week. So that I can come home on a day when I don't have to worry about picking my daughter up straight after school. So I've got the whole afternoon and then on to sort of 5:30 before I need to pick her up, so that I can actually really concentrate for a serious amount of time and actually get through some things. So it's really good.
So did you approach your head teacher, or did they approach you about taking some time out of school?
Well, it was a bit of both, really. I mean, I approached her, but she was really keen for me to focus on the course because she, I think, thinks it's a good thing for the school as well. So she's really behind it in terms of, you know, giving me that time and making sure, you know. And when it came up towards getting my assessment written up for the last unit, I was really struggling because we'd had some issues with absence in the office and it was really difficult at school. And but she really was good to say, you know, well, you need to get it sorted, you need to go home tomorrow afternoon and just do it, and, you know, take tomorrow off. And I couldn't because of the situation in school, but it was good to know that she was supporting me in that way.
Yeah, yeah, and that just gives you motivation, doesn't it, to actually, right, I am going to complete this because she's actually relying on me to complete as well. Yeah. So that's really positive. I mean, I, again, sort of, it was mutual because the school wanted me to do that, what was then the level 4. When I went on to do the level 5, that was more my choice. But I think it's always surprising when you do approach your head teachers how supportive they can be, because they know in the long run it's going to benefit them, because if you're more skilled at the strategic side of things and being proactive, then it makes their jobs a lot easier. So I would encourage anyone, you know, if they need an afternoon, a day to write up the assignment, even if it can't be set weekly, to approach their senior management and see if you can negotiate some time, because it really is effective time that just, instead of going home after a busy day, getting things sorted at home and then sitting down, it's surprising how much more you get through if you're fresher in the day as well. I think we all know that from sort of weekends to actually having to go home of a weekday and do work. So yeah, that's positive, thank you. So obviously one of our biggest resources is the school that we work in, and that allows you to access information, so do use that to its maximum. Provide and also use colleagues to sound out ideas, senior management to provide information and formulate plans, especially when you go on to Unit 4 and 5, because that is a big focus around school improvement. So if you haven't already, you want to start getting your colleagues on board with regards to school improvement and your future units. In addition, you may have a local school network or SPM forum that you can tap into for knowledge. And don't forget also your fellow learners, and always remember that it is just as important for you to give support to them. You can use the forum as a discussion on topics unrelated to your learning. It is there as a network channel and to share good work practice. So if you do have something that comes up within your school and you think, oh, it's not really related to Unit 2, so I can't go on the forum. You are quite welcome to set up your own discussion on the forum and ask your cohort if they had any experience with the issue that you'd like to ask them. So going on to the support within Unit 2, again our general contact will be via email and through the group discussion forum, which will be helpful to the whole group as everyone can benefit from any answers given, and also you can share your own practice and ideas. As an online learning community, sharing ideas, knowledge and asking questions helps everyone to deepen their learning. As with any type of discussion, always engage politely, even if you are challenging an idea or understanding. Show respect and be aware of confidentiality when needed. And just to highlight that the discussion forum is private to us. Don't forget you also have the course coordinator, Sabrina Ibrahim, to help you with submitting your assessments and for general course and VLE queries, such as your enrolment, contact details, grading outcomes and general learner policies as per your induction module. There are also podcasts available on the VLE for Unit 2, which only last about 5 to 10 minutes, and they include School Business Management Reflections. Complementary learning support is provided through webinars, one for each unit delivered at a set time and date through an online 30-minute presentation. A recorded session will be available for any learners not able to attend, but please do try to be online. It really is a case of the more the merrier. You will have received your invitation via email to all Unit 2 webinars, and you are encouraged to register as soon as possible. If numbers are low, then the webinar will be cancelled. So again, if possible, we'll just take a minute to discuss reasons we don't have the whole of the group coming online for the webinars. Do any of the learners have any suggestions about attendance for the webinars to increase it? Again, you know, any feedback's appreciated. And one thing I'd be interested in hearing is how you feel about the webinar being recorded. Does that make you reserved about the webinar, or you know, are you quite fine with that? Do you like that? Because then if you can't attend the webinar, you always listen in to the recording. Has anyone got any views?
I do like it being recorded, because then it does mean if I do miss it, because I work shifts, we're a bit of a different nurse, we have a wraparound, so if I'm not available, then I can listen to it later. Well, most of them I can attend, but it just means I know it's there if I need it.
Right, okay. So
Were you able to listen to them again? Because I tried to listen to one again while I was writing up my assessment. I thought, oh, I want to hear that again, and I couldn't access them.
are they not
I
on
haven't
the
actually
VLE?
needed to yet, to be honest.
How did you try to access them? Via the Dropbox link, or?
Yeah. Well, initially via the Dropbox link, and then I looked on the VLE, but I couldn't find the recordings.
Right, okay, then I'll highlight that to Sabrina because it's part of her role as course coordinator. I send them on to her. Well, she can access the webinar account, but I do send them to her as well and ask her to upload them. So you had issues with upload. Was there an icon on the VLE that said this is webinar for Unit 1, Module 1 at all? Or are they just not there? Could you just not find them?
I can't remember, to be honest, but then I tried it from the Dropbox link, so we had the email saying that the recording was available via this link, and it took me to the Dropbox, but then there didn't seem to be a recording there.
Right.
Yeah, I had the same issue as well when I was looking for some that I'd missed.
Right, so definitely need to look into the webinar recordings and get Sabrina to signpost you to exactly where they'll be saved and check that you can actually access them. I'll feed that back. That's great, thanks. So how do people feel? So generally people like the fact that it's being recorded.
Yes, definitely.
For that
Yes.
sort of future being able. Oh, hi Rebecca, you've just put your hand up. Rebecca? Rebecca? I think maybe she's put her hand up by accident. So we'll carry on. Just double check there's nobody else with their hands up. No, we're fine. So that's positive about the recordings and that you do find them valuable, but obviously the actual access issue to them we need to look into and make sure it's quite clearly signposted. So as I say, I will bring that back to Sabrina, and she is quite good at making sure that she makes those changes for us. So going on to the introduction to Unit 2. As I say, we're going from personal effectiveness to team management. Unit 2, in essence, follows on from Unit 1 and looks at research and concepts in making you more effective as a manager of teams. Unit 1 was inward, looking at your own way of working, and Unit 2 will be outward facing and how to get the best out of leading your teams. Even if you only manage one other person in a small school, the general principles will apply, and you will find some of the same authors mentioned in this unit from Unit 1, such as Covey, Goleman, Blanchard and Biazzi. Before we can make changes to improve, we always need to analyse and understand a team. What works for one team may not work for another. Therefore, as managers and leaders of staff with a wide range of abilities and skills, we need to have knowledge of factors which contribute to a team's effectiveness and ensures that performance is maximum and efficient. In analysing teams, you will need to be able to define the leadership style, culture, types of team members and the motivation of the team performance management and development stage of a team. There is another planning template within the resource folder to record your analysis, and you do have to send this to me by the 20th of May or around that date. You will then again, as you did with Unit 1 with the planning template, use that as your appendix and to write up your section 1 of the assignment. And as with Unit 1, I'll give you just a couple of sentences feedback on your planning template and any additional concepts or ideas that I can add for you. So the aim is to reflect and recommend. From working through the unit and carrying out your research, you will be able to determine if the team works well and be able to make recommendations for future improvements to benefit both the team and the school. The modules within Unit 2. Module 1, understanding and analysing teams. Module 2, leading them. Module 3, managing the performance of teams. The modules will provide you with information to review the teams that you lead and provide ideas on why maybe situations have not had a positive outcome, or if you do always get it right, the qualities that you are using as a manager to ensure effective management of your team. The majority of the models and concepts will orientate around emotional intelligence and awareness. So why study teams in such depth? What is the point? People are paid to do a job and should get on with it, we might question. Well, I think the answer to this is summed up by the Leadership Advantage newsletter, which they produce an article called The Importance of Emotionally Intelligent Teams. You find the full article in your resource folder, but one point they raise is that when people feel good, they work better, are more creative and are more productive. Emotions are contagious. When one or two people are in a good mood, it spreads easily to other members. Good team leaders know how to balance the focus on productivity with attention to members' relationships and their ability to connect. Humour at work can stimulate creativity, open lines of communications, and enhance a sense of trust. Playful joking increases the likelihood of concessions during a negotiation. However, I would add that although I do agree with the concept of a positive mood within schools and within the team that you manage, as with all interpersonal relationships, before we all reach for our joke books to cheer up our team members, as team leaders, we have to make sure that there is the healthy balance between humour and productivity, with also an awareness of the importance of mutual trust. I realise it's early stages, but do any of you have a team that in mind that you'll analyse for Unit 2? Is there any teams that spring out to you that maybe work and perform really well together, or maybe one that there's possibly they've only just formed and they need to start collaborating together as a team?
I've got one thought in mind, but it's got a little bit of a change to it now. Some of our teaching assistants, the TA2s, we currently have 10 of them in the school, but due to budget restrictions, they're having to reduce some of their hours down to the minimum variable hours. So at the minute there's a lot of ill feeling, shall we say, between the teams, and there's going to be 2 full-time roles available, whoever is successful at the interviews. But at the minute, the working relationship between them is just dire. So I was thinking maybe I could concentrate on that, you know, to see how the team can perform better. I'm not quite sure. I might be taking on a little bit more than I can chew. I don't know.
I mean, yeah, particularly for Module 2, leading the team, that goes into a lot about a strategy called Fierce Conversations, and you'll most likely find that quite an interesting topic maybe to have a look at with regard to your assessment and concepts that will help you sort of get the team past that sort of, they're almost forming again, aren't they?
Yeah, they are, yeah.
So, you know, they have to sort of reform as a new group. So, yeah, definitely, I mean, keep them in mind. Does anybody else have any ideas of the team that they might look at? Senior management team, for instance?
I was thinking of doing my admin team because I'm actually the newest member to that team.
Right.
As the business manager, and they just, they work well, but we don't actually work as a team because I sit obviously away from them.
Right, okay.
So they work very well, but there's like a breakdown of communication, I think, and leadership of what actually needs to be done and what they feel needs to be done.
Yeah, and so really you're a group of people that are undertaking a role within the school. You don't feel like a team as such.
Yeah, we each have our individual roles, but actually if we work together better, we'll probably get a lot more done and much more efficiently. I think they don't use each other's skills very well.
Right, okay. And again, as part of Module 1, it starts looking at the roles, you know, that people take on within teams. So again, it'd be quite good for you to analyse whether the right person is doing the right job, doesn't it? It sounds like. within that area. Again, other ideas are that if you manage the site support, the office, the kitchen, you could actually maybe look at bringing them together as a team, you know, and actually forming them as a team rather than separate pockets within the school. Again, senior management team, particularly if there's been a change around of members and they're reforming after the change. And also if relevant at all, or if you don't feel you want to do an admin team or such like, there is always the idea that there's always events or awards that people are working towards in school. It might be that you can lead a team that is arranging an event in school, and then look at the different types of people that you'll need in that team to make that event successful. It sounds like there's some good ideas there, and as I say, if you do struggle with deciding which team to focus on, then by all means either ask the question on the forum or email me. If it needs a longer discussion, I can always give you a quick ring at any time to talk about it over the telephone rather than you struggle for an idea. You will find within the unit that it will be a case of the sooner the better in deciding which team you will actually focus on. The reason being for this, that as you work through the modules, there's activities, and if you can focus these activities on the team that you're looking at, that is the concept and ideas, you can then use that to draw on within your assessment again. So there's no need to go off. If you're doing your admin team, do your activities on your admin team. Don't double up your work by doing the activity on, say, your senior management team, if that's not going to be your focus in your assessment. And of course, yeah.
Sorry, Fiona, can I just check then? So when you say decide who you're going to focus on, so do you have to be the person who's leading that team?
I would say preferably.
Yeah, right, okay.
The reason being is that module 2 is, well, the whole unit is called leading and managing teams.
Yeah, right.
Is that going to be an issue for you, or?
No, I was just thinking that, like, for instance, our admin team, there's only 3 of them plus me, so yeah, that's too small, isn't it?
A team doesn't, and module 1 will sort of say that to you, in that a team could be just you and one other person. It doesn't have to be a large group of people.
Right.
So because the concepts and how you interrelate with each other, and things like the idea of a fierce conversation, you might actually, an emotional intelligence you can apply to 1, 2 or 3 people as well as 10 or 12. In fact, in some ways, if you have too many people in the team, it can get a little bit hard to handle with regards to your assessment, because you'll get a lot of personalities coming through.
Yeah, yeah.
So I'd say a team of 3 is fine. Do you manage any other areas within your school?
The welfare staff and the site supervisor.
Right.
So,
and do you refer to them as like the business and site support team, or do you see all of them as individual pockets?
Yeah, there's really us in the admin team, but then the site supervisor, we have a lot to do with him on a daily basis, but the welfare staff is there's a different pocket job roles, if you will. So, but I mean, I could concentrate on bringing the site supervisor in on our role, and yeah, I might do that instead of the years.
yeah, and possibly set up a business and site team type of thing, and maybe look at meeting together and then just observe how, you know, people interact.
Yeah.
It's making people feel part of that. Site supervisors historically are quite isolated, aren't they? They're
Yes, they are.
they're
Yeah.
very much like our role. They're left to get on with it, and some sort of take advantage of that, and you have to have a conversation with them about it. And others, you know, work on their own initiative, just like you get with any isolated role. So I think sometimes there is value in bringing them and recognising them within a team and letting them feel that they've got a voice within the school as well.
Right.
So a few ideas there for you to think about. So, and then obviously Unit 2 goes on to look at teacher performance management. It goes on to look at performance management of teams, and as we're all aware, teacher performance management has always been a forerunner in all schools. However, more and more schools are recognising the need to performance management support staff, and I know in my school we performance manage all staff now, from you know, site supervisor, welfare, right up through to deputy head. Performance management demonstrates accountability, links in with the school development plans, and upholds the value placed on all school staff. So in summary, do start looking at the resources and reading through the assignment criteria as a starting point. The majority of your time you will have already found from Unit 1 is spent on researching, and although this is time consuming, your wider reading is critical to demonstrate deeper understanding within your assessment. Do make sure that if you read a book or an article that you reflect on your thoughts and write them down. You can return to your reflections when you're writing up the assignment, and do remember to reference the source of your learning. I have started reading through myself the majority of the resources within Unit 2, and there's some really good valuable resources that I think you'll find quite relevant to your role. I've also previously and continue to read some team management books. I might add at that point, I do feel quite sorry for my staff that I manage sometimes, because I'm sure they must glaze over when I tell them about the management books that I've read. I do get a bit keen on them. So obviously in the webinars, Unit 2 webinars for Module 1, 2 and 3, I'll be sharing with you the additional concepts from this reading. Thankfully, apart from obviously the webinar recording issue that's been raised tonight, thankfully we do seem to be starting Unit 2 with the Learner Discussion Forum up and running, and also with the modules, the resources and such like online. I would just like to reiterate thanks for your patience at the start of the course with the issues over Unit 1 and having to wait for the forum to go live. I hope you've managed to visit the forum and find it a valuable area. Again, I would emphasise, if you want to share, ask a question, discuss, or even as you're reading through the resources, if you just want to go on there and put a couple of lines on about a revelation that you've had from reading, maybe emotional intelligence, do share it, because it's all about, if you're feeling it, others will be too. And it's good to know that you're on that sort of learning journey together. Also share any research, reading, if you come across anything on another forum that you find is interesting, then let the other learners know, because the more we share, the more we're going to learn. And also anything on the discussion forum or the module activities, as I previously mentioned, you can then use them in your assessment writing up and draw on them and say, you know, I got a bit stuck on how to approach the team with regard to A, B and C, so I posted a question and one of the SPMs suggested I tried it, and then it's all good reflection of you know, that you've started at this stage, you've asked the question, you've looked at the research, and from that you've been able to develop yourself and know how to then go ahead with a situation or team building, team management. So next steps, read through the learner handbook if you've not already done so, and the introduction module, then move on to module 1, by which time you'll be starting to think again about which team you're going to focus on. We meet again via webinar next Friday, the 13th of May at 6 o'clock for module 1. That webinar will focus on discussing ideas and concepts learned today. So if you do come across any independent research that you'd like to share, that would be a great opportunity to come online and share it with the other cohort learners. So I'm looking forward to starting leading and managing teams. I think you'll find with our roles it is a very you'll find, as with personal effectiveness, although that was more looking at yourself, how your self-confidence, assertiveness, I think you'll find that this then develops on, and you'll find it valuable in moving forward and seeing your teams more from a strategic level rather than that day-to-day base level. So that brings us to the end of the introduction for Unit 2. Are there any questions? I've just checked down through and there's no raised hands. If there is anything that you think of later, as I say, just email or pop a question on the discussion forum, or there's next Friday. I hope to hear from you all again next Friday. It seems to have worked quite well with the open mic and there's not been too much feedback. How have you found it all? Has anybody experienced horrendous feedback, or have they been okay?
Mine's been fine.
Yeah, it's
Brilliant. I think as well as we progress, it's a bit easier if we have just the open mic, because as I say, it creates a bit more of a flow in that we're not stopping and starting with regards to clicking on the mute mic. So I think we'll try it again like this next week for that interaction. So that's it for tonight, and thank you for coming online, and have a pleasant evening. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye. Bye-bye.
Bye.